Hi, my name is Alvin Castro. I'm a technical marketing engineer for the Aruba Switch side. This tutorial is to get your own Windows environment up and ready to have GitHub interaction and utilize PyCharm as an IDE for your Python scripting. So let's get started. Let's download Python. Open up a browser, go to python.org/downloads, and it should take you here. At the time of this video, it's Python 3.6.4. Go ahead and run that installation file after you download it. On this screen, I generally suggest adding Python 3.6 to path. This allows your Windows box to be able to handle the Python files automatically in your environment variables. From here, just click Install Now unless you want to specifically choose a location. In this case, we're just going to go ahead and default it to this. It's not too big of a file, so it should install pretty quickly. Now once the install finishes, I generally choose to disable the path length limit. Hit close and you're done with the Python aspect. Next, let's install Git. By installing Git separately, this allows your Windows PC Git CLI command access and Git bash, which can function as a mini bash shell if necessary. This is also an easy way for us to create and pair SSH keys in future steps. To do that, go ahead and go to https git-scm.com, download win. This automatically downloads the latest Git version for Windows. In my case, it's the 64-bit. From here, let's run the installation file. Always be sure to read all your terms and conditions. I happen to be a very fast reader. Go ahead and choose the folder that you'll be installing it. When selecting components, verify that the Windows Explorer integration with Git Bash here and Git GUI here are check marked. On the next few screens, you're given options which are preferential. For instance, for a default editor, I highly recommend Notepad++. I love using it. So you might need to install that separately if you don't already have it. The reason why I like Notepad++ is because it's lightweight, it's got color context text editor, and it has support for multiple different programming languages. When adjusting your path environment, I like to use Git and optional Unix tools from the Windows command prompt. Although this will override Windows tools like find and sort, it gives you the capability to use Unix type of command line things. So if you're used to Unix-based CLI, you could do things like ls and grep, things along those lines. This screen came up because I already have PuTTY installed, so it gives an option to use PuTTY or plink for the SSH executable. In this case, we'll just stick with OpenSSH for this tutorial. If you're using a PC with Active Directory domain services, you can select the Use Native Windows Secure Channel library when choosing HTTPS transport backend. Finally, I suggest check out Windows style, commit Unix style line endings. This helps establish a uniform line ending LF across all of our projects to make sure that they're all Unix style while not giving us problems on our own Windows commits. Also, if you prefer the Windows CMD executable for your console window, go ahead and choose this one. I actually like to use the mini TTY. It pretty much makes it look like its own resizable window that makes it look like a Unix shell. From here we can pretty much stick with defaults. The Git credential manager for Windows is notably nice. In our case, we'll be establishing SSH keys as well as utilizing GitHub in the future. But for now, let's go ahead and install. Before installing our SSH keys, let's actually sign up for our GitHub account. For our enterprise level GitHub at HPE, just go to github.hpe.com. Do make sure that you are connected to either the internal network or via VPN. From here, you might already have an account, or after you create it, make sure that you send your username ID to the admin of whichever repository that you want to have access to. Once you're added, when you get to your main page, you can click your dashboard content button from your name to whichever repository that you can get to. This is important to know up here. If you hit this little icon and go to settings, that's where we'll be going next for the SSH pairing. Now let's add the SSH key pair between our GitHub account and our local Git repository. This allows you to securely have access to pools from Git and GitHub Desktop. First, let's generate a public and private RSA key pair by opening up the Git bash and typing sh-keygen -t RSA-b 6-c, and this will be your email. So in this case, I'll do so enter file, save the key. We'll keep it over here for now. Passphrase, we can keep it empty for now. And you'll be given this SHA image. So after entering that location, this gives you a key fingerprint and a random art image. So after hitting enter a couple times, it should give you a key fingerprint and a random art image. I actually scrolled down below it so you guys don't see it on my screen. Next, we want to add the RSA ID into SSH agent. Let's quickly verify that SSH agent is running by typing eval since we have a PID, it's good to go. Now we can add the key that we just created by doing ssh add. id_rsa. As you can see, identity added. Now we can copy that SSH info with the commands clip. .pub. This is essentially just doing the copy command, or Control-C in this case. Now let's head back to our GitHub account. As I mentioned, we got to this page by clicking up here, hitting Settings. Now let's click SSH and GPG keys on the left over here. Don't worry about the blurred screen area. We're going to worry about creating a new SSH key, which brings a whole nother section right down here. Title is pretty much just a description for the key. In this case, we could just call this a video SSH key. And all we got to do is paste. Then click Add SSH key. This next step is to install the GitHub desktop application. This GUI version of GitHub can give a quick and easy visualization of your branch and repository, as well as a one-click solution for pushing, pulling, and reviewing merged code. Some people prefer to use the old-fashioned Git way, but this is a nice little tool to make things easy and interesting. Let's download and install it by going to https desktop.github.com. Download for Windows. It'll take a little bit for that to download. Okay, after it's downloaded, go ahead and run it and install. The installation for this is fairly straightforward. So I'll go ahead and skip ahead. So sign into your GitHub Enterprise. Here, type in your GitHub or our enterprise server address, which is https github.hpe.com. Hitting continue here should ask for authorization for this application to synchronize with your account. Now this step may ask you to sign in on your HPE domain login in a web page, and then might bring up a pop-up asking to open the link in GitHub Desktop. When you click open in that case, it should autofill your name and email on the next screen. So, just like I said. Just allow it this time. It has some things autofilled, like I just mentioned. Sometimes I prefer to not send my data. So as you can see, right now we have no repositories. So let's go ahead and clone one. Go ahead and hit File, Clone Repository. Go ahead and click Enterprise here. And this is where you're going to type in the repo that you requested access for earlier. In my case, I'm going to type in switch automation Actually, this one right here, which I know I have access to. After you have that, go ahead and hit clone. This will just clone that one specific repo. You could actually repeat this step for other repositories to have your own clone of every repository that you need or want to mess around with or at least download the code for. Note that if you're behind a proxy, you may need to add the proxy to Git in Git bash. Let's go over that really quickly. In this case, all you need to do is do something git config, and this is going to actually edit the global HTTP proxy. And then this is where you type in the actual proxies. Like so, in this case, we could put in proxy user, proxy. This is not the actual proxy user and password. This is just to give an example of what you might need to do. And this is the proxy.server.com address, etc. So just hit enter to add that proxy to your Git prior to trying to pull. In my system's case, I didn't need to. However, I know that that's sometimes a hurdle that people run into. Okay, so we have Git desktop run, or GitHub desktop up and running, as well as our own little Git bash shell. Last thing that we should install is an IDE. In this case, we're going to go download PyCharm. That's at this address. jetbrains.com/pycharm/download. This is just going to get us directly to the Windows section. As you can see, there is a professional and a community version. Although we are professionals, in this case, I generally suggest the community. It's lightweight enough to, and it pretty much gets the job done for most of our needs. However, this is another like taste preference, but the rest of this tutorial will go through the community version's installation. So after that is downloaded, go ahead and run it. Click Next. In my case, I'm going to go ahead and put it at the default destination folder. I generally prefer to associate the .py extensions with PyCharm. Anytime that I want something even lighter, such as Notepad++, I usually right-click color context for it. Create a shortcut since I'm running a 64-bit launcher. You also have the option to download and install the Java runtime environment by JetBrains, the JetBrains version of it. However, if you already have a Java runtime environment, you could use the official one. But this does give you the option to from here. Go Start menu folder and next. And here we go with the last installation. Okay, just another quick install. Let's go ahead and run it to get the initial settings going. If this is your first install, then you don't need to import the settings. Should be good to go. Again, do make sure you're reading the policies. Practice your speed reading. This is another personal preference. I actually prefer the dark theme, just a little easier on my eyes. And we're going to go ahead and, though there are multiple plugins for PyCharm, we'll skip this section since this is also a preference choice. And we'll start using PyCharm right here. So this is a splash screen for PyCharm. What we're going to do is hit Configure and Settings down here. Next, we're going to click this triangle over by version control. This expands drop-down menu. So we're going to click GitHub. This is how we're going to get PyCharm to interact with GitHub. So you could actually download and pull directly via PyCharm. Change the host to HTTPS and your username. So in this case, I'll do Alvin Castro at github.hpe.com. And authentication type will be token. Next, let's go back to our GitHub web UI. So as I said, settings is how I brought this up. We're going to now go to developer settings on the bottom left. Next, click personal access tokens, and we're going to generate a new token. This is where we give it a description. In this case, you might have noticed that I actually have a few tokens already out there. This is a good way to describe which PC or VM that you're getting. So for this one, I'm just going to call this access token my laptop access token. Since all we're really doing with this token is to pull and pretty much get repo access, you could just checkmark the scopes for repo section as well as the admin public key section. You have full authority to go ahead and check whichever other authorizations that you want to for your scopes. However, for this tutorial, for this example, this is pretty much all that we need. Next, hit generate token. Now, when you generate the token, this is the one time that you will actually get a chance to see the token, the actual SHA. So click copy token right here, say copied, and let's go back to PyCharm. So as I mentioned, after you are done with that page, you're not going to be able to see that token again. And if you need to re-authenticate or recreate it, you actually have to delete the token and generate a new token. So this is your one chance to copy it. And going back to the settings of PyCharm, right under here where it says token section, this is where we can paste it. You could also click test to verify. Connection successful. Excellent. Again, if you are behind a proxy, such as if you're running this from a VM that needs to get to its own proxy, you need to go to Appearance and Behavior up here. Make sure that's dropped down. Click on System Settings, bring this down, and then HTTP Proxy. So this is where you'll type in your proxy information. So after we have those settings already done, click Apply and OK. Then on the splash screen, let's go ahead and click Checkout from version control. This right here. And then click GitHub. It brings up this screen right here. Yours might not be pre-populated, but that's simply because I've got the URLs already linked on mine. But from here, you should be able to actually drop down and see all the repositories that you have access to. In this case, we'll just grab one of these. Let's go with my switch automation. And the parent directory is where you're going to have your own local clone repo of it. Directory name. You can always hit test to make sure that it actually establishes a connection correctly. Click clone. So this is an alternative. I should have mentioned this earlier. This is an alternative to using the GitHub desktop and such. You could actually have them linked. But yeah, this is, if you don't want to use GitHub desktop, since that was optional, you could actually use PyCharm specifically to download the clones. To pull the latest branches and such and have your own clone this way. So if we hit clone right now, that should actually clone it. After it's done with that, you can go ahead and open it up. Note that if this is the first time you open the project, well, gives a nice little handy dandy tip of the day. But if this is the first time that you're opening the project, it might take a few minutes to build the tree and download all the files depending on how big this repo is. But from here, you should be fully synchronized with the build. And with that, you're good to go. Thank you very much for your time. Hopefully this has been helpful for you. Now you should have the capability to use PyCharm and get to scripting. Have a great day.